This is the All-American Ron Simmons, and you're listening to Casio's Cut. Damn!
Hey kid, look at me. Let's burn down the school with gasoline. Say hell yeah. Hell yeah. Say white trash. White trash. Hey kid, it's party time. We're kicking out the jams like the MC5. That's the way I wanna be. I'll be a white trash superstar. That's the way I wanna be. I'll be a white trash superstar.
What's up, Candy Lickers? Pleased to meet you. Nice to know me. What you doing? I am here with another edition of Casio's Cut. It's our 83rd episode, so we have our special guest, the host of 83 Weeks, writer, producer, president, general manager, whatever you want to call him, Mr. Eric Bischoff. What's up, my man?
Having a wonderful day, Casio. I'm having just an amazing day. I love this time of year. My energy goes up a couple different levels. I don't know why. It has nothing to do with the holidays. It's just the season. I was born to love the fall.
You're in Wyoming, correct?
I am in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, as I like to refer to it. I'm actually about 45 miles east of the east entrance of Yellowstone National Park. So I live in God's country.
So weather is perfect right now.
What time is it? Yeah, today it is. This time I had to look out the window to see if it was the same right now as it was when I walked in here to do this. In the mountains, and I live right on the edge of the Rocky Mountains and right in them, actually. And when you live in the mountains this time of year, the weather changes rapidly. So it can go from 60 degrees and sunny and no wind to 10 degrees below zero with a 40-mile-an-hour breeze in about a minute. So it changes fast. It's one of the reasons I like it.
But you're a motorcycle guy, so I figured the cold weather would shut that down. You wouldn't like that.
Guess I don't ride as much as I used to. I used to ride a lot. It was kind of important to me, and, did the Sturgis thing and a lot of other really cool rides. And all my buddies rode, and that was kind of a weekend thing, especially when we lived in Arizona, because Arizona is a perfect place to ride unless it's the summertime. Then no, it sucks. But I've always ridden a lot. I've been riding motorcycles since I was 14, and interestingly enough, Casio, I think you'll appreciate this. I've never had a motorcycle endorsement.
Really?
I've been riding motorcycles for more than a half a century all over the country, and I've never had a motorcycle license. Isn't that cool?
Now's the time.
No, no way. No way. Somebody asked me a couple of years ago, why don't you just get your license, No, because it takes the fun out of it. When you're not breaking at least a little bit of a law, you're not really living. You're nowhere near the edge. And I'm a live on the edge kind of cat. And if I can't get it, I don't have to be on the edge, but fuck, I got to be able to see it.
Wait, you don't have your motorcycle's license?
No, I've never had one. Never.
That's rock and roll right there, dude.
I'm a rebel.
Were you
I'm an
always
outlaw.
street bikes, or did you ever go dirt bikes?
No, I always street bikes. I've ridden a dirt bike or two in my days, but I've always been street bikes. I've always liked the speed, and as I got older, I'm a Harley guy just because of the history, and it's American-made bike, and I guess I'm just a sucker for the marketing at the end of the day, because they're really not that great of motorcycles. I mean, there's much better motorcycles out there. My dream someday, I don't know if I'll do it because it's so much money. I have a hard time justifying things like this at this stage of my life. But BMW makes a great touring bike.
Okay.
Great touring bike. So maybe I may, depending on my mood and my lack of discipline at the moment, I may jump into that one day. But right now it's just me and my big old fat, ugly Harley. And I mean, it's fat and ugly. I bought a frame from a 95. I don't know if you're a Harley guy or not, but it's the FLHTC, the big heavy bagger.
Okay.
I call them the dentist and doctor bikes because that's what dentists and doctors drive.
It's got the big front piece.
Big saddlebags and all that. It was a 1995, and it was a wreck. All I wanted was the frame. So I bought the bike for a couple grand. It needed a ton of work. I just stripped everything off of it because that particular frame was the only frame that would house a it's called an S&S motor. I'm not a motorhead guy. I just sound like I am one right now, but it's a V-twin, Harley-like engine, but it kicks out about 130 horsepower to the rear tire, which on a Harley is a lot of horsepower. It's a lot. So I had the bike custom built for me. And if you saw this bike, Casio, you wouldn't give me, even if you were a Harley guy that loved Harleys. Now, if you didn't know all the components that are in the bike, and that's a story here. Right. If you just looked at it from like 10 feet away, and I said, Casio, I need 50 grand out of that bike just to break even, you would run. You'd be like Jackie Joyner Kersey or whatever her name is. You'd be sprinting away from me because you'd think I was nuts. But that's about what it cost me to build this bike. Everything in it is custom. I took off the belt drive, had to put out a chain drive because of all the torque that massive motor put out. It's a sleeper bike. I painted it flat black, everything. There's not an inch of chrome on that bike.
All right.
And I haven't washed it since, when did I build it? 2003. So it's been 17 years since anybody's washed that bike. Because I look at dirt and bugs and shit like that. I even had a bird stuck to it for a little while, and it just rotted and dried up and fell off while I was driving. But like whatever hits my bike is my souvenir. Okay. So when I'd go on a long trip in the summertime, I get the big windshield on it and all that. And you come home and your bugs are all over your windshield, all over your gas tank. Your bike is splattered with dragonflies and shit. I just leave them on there.
Because your scars and your memories.
Yeah, it's like it looks like a bike that someone actually rides, not some shiny looking thing that doctors and dentists like to keep shiny and blah. I like my bike like I used to like my women, just dirty and fast.
I thought you were going to say bald tires. I don't know what you're going.
Bald tires works too, by the way.
When's the last time you rode? You say you don't ride as often. When?
My wife and I, Mrs. B, she rides with me. Once in a while, like our anniversary, typically we'll leave here in Cody. We'll drive through Yellowstone. We'll come out the north entrance of Yellowstone in a little town called Livingston, Montana. Beautiful, beautiful area. And then we'll go up into Livingston, and usually we'll spend a night or two at a lodge up there that's right on the Yellowstone River, and we'll fly fish, do some rafting and things like that. And then we'll ride into Bozeman and drink and do what horny married people do. And eat well, because there's good restaurants in Bozeman. But by the time we're done eating and screwing and having a good time, we turn around and we just reverse the path home. But we only do that once a year. The rest of the time, I'll just jump on my bike. And, I live so close to a beautiful area here. I mean, I can't overstate how beautiful it is here. And the riding in the summer and the fall, spring is beautiful. I'll just jump on my bike and take off for 4, 5, 6 hours and ride around in the mountains. Nowhere in particular. Just
Are you in silence or do you got music playing?
I don't do music. I have
music.
That's a pet fucking peeve of mine, by the way. There's nothing worse than you're riding with a couple guys and some idiot feels the need to crank his fucking music up so that people in the next county can hear it. It's like, dude, I don't even like your freaking music. I used to ride with this guy, good friend of mine, best friend. His name is Scott. I don't see Scott much anymore. Scott Dunn. We used to do martial arts together and travel together a lot. So super guy, super guy. But he had the weirdest taste in music, man. He liked like 1960s Everly Brothers.
Okay.
And shit. And nothing against it. I don't mind. Once in a while, if I'm in the mood, if I'm driving down the road.
Motorcycle music.
But fuck, not for 4 hours blasted in my ear. It's like, God damn it. So no, I'm totally against music. In fact, the guy that built my motorcycle put a stereo in the bike that I ended up paying for. I didn't even ask for it. And I haven't turned it on in 13 years. The only reason I leave it there is if I take it out, there'll be a big hole in my dashboard. I don't know what to put in it.
Big gap. All right. If you know what Bischoff can put in his stereo gap, let him know. He needs to fill the space.
Yeah. I stuff my wallet in there and maybe a little weed or something while I'm out enjoying the scenery or something. But, that's not permanent. I need a permanent fixture in there. Otherwise, I'll just leave shit in there and forget about it.
All right. So one of the things I wanted to talk about, you brought up music. So one of the things I want to talk about, well, do you listen to music around the house? Are you music guy around the house? Are you radio? Are you vinyl? Are you back into vinyl? What do you got?
No, not so much into vinyl. I'm despite the fact that I advertise myself and accurately so as a high-tech redneck, I'm into iTunes, and I got my I got my Bluetooth gimmicks. So I got speakers all over my house. So typically when I listen to music is on the weekends when I'm cooking. Mrs. B and I love to cook. That's what we do for fun. There's only two of us, which is really, and she weighs like 90 pounds if you put rocks in her pockets and feed her. But we just love to cook. So when we're cooking, and we cook everything from scratch. So when we're cooking on a Saturday or Sunday, we'll crank up the music and enjoy it. Puts us in the mood. So
here's what I got to bring up, because you talked about it. Of course, you do 83 weeks with Conrad Thompson, and you mentioned it on the show before, or at least to him. You mentioned Yellow Wolf. Is that a real thing? You really like Yellow Wolf?
Just so you know, I am not bullshitting you.
Here we go.
Because Conrad, I don't think he believed me, right?
I didn't believe you. He said, wait till you hear the new episode. Bischoff claims he likes Yellow Wolf.
No, I got to find it. Hold on.
Because I think you mentioned it. Yellow Wolf is my cousin.
He did tell me after that. And I didn't believe him. He started out not believing me. Shit, I can't find my music. We're going to have to fix this before the show's over, because otherwise I'm going to feel like
it's going to eat you up.
God damn it. Where'd it go?
How did you discover Yellow Wolf?
I think, honestly, I think it was used in either a television show I happened to be watching, and that's how I discovered,
I can't remember. Did he get a song on Sons of Anarchy, maybe?
I'm almost certain that was it, because I used to watch that show religiously. And Kurt Sutter, who I know, is really good at matching music to the mood of the scene or the movie or the series. That's probably where I heard it, because
it was in the last season, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. If you like Casio, if you found my iPhone and you went to my playlist, it's pretty eclectic. Much more eclectic than you would expect from me.
Think, yeah.
But the reason for that is I love music scoring. I'm always interested in how directors in particular find the right, because music in a movie or in a television show, it can change everything. You can have kind of decent dialogue, but if you've got a decent scene with the right music, it changes everything. So I pay really close attention when I watch things, because I'm a process-driven person. I like to understand how things come together. I like to understand. That's why I was anxious to talk to you, because I'm fascinated with stand-up comedy, because I think there's a process there. And I'm sure everybody has their own process, but everybody has a process. I would imagine if you're good, if you're actually making money at it, there's got to be a way that you can rinse and repeat that formula so you can get new material, right?
Yeah.
And I've always felt that way about, movie making or producing television, is the music is so important. So when I watch something new, especially, or if it's something like Sons of Anarchy that I watch religiously, oftentimes I'll be and I watch TV with my iPhone in my hand with Shazam ready to go.
Oh yeah.
Because that's where I discover most of my music, is in either television or movies.
Dallas Buyers Club has a great score. You remember movies that have great soundtracks, and you remember it. And like you said, I love Shazamming music during a movie or a TV show where it hits and you're like, man, that was the perfect mood setter for that scene right there.
And that you hit it. For me, that's it. To me, I use music much like, people use drugs and alcohol. I use music to alter my mood.
Yeah.
So like this morning, I had to get on with Conrad at my time. It was 7 a.m. my time. Now, it's not normally a big deal for me because I usually get up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning anyway. I go to bed at 8:30 at 9 at night. I'm an old fuck, so my life is kind of boring. I don't go out and party at night or stay up late or anything. But 7 a.m. now we're doing this stuff on camera. That's a little bit different. I could come in when we're just recording it before adfreeshows.com. I could come in, with my hair all fucked up and my eyes swollen and all that, and I could fake it pretty well and not sound like I've only been awake for an hour. But when you're on camera, it's a little bit different. So I got up early, and the first thing I did was I was playing Celtic bagpipe music. Actually,
bagpipe music.
Yeah, I love bagpipe music, and I like Celtic music in general, but bagpipe music, especially when I want to feel like I'm ready to go to war with somebody, when I'm looking around for something to tangle with, it's usually because I've been listening to bagpipe music.
Wait, well, you got to give us a song. You got to give us a song we can look up or get on our playlist. Is there anything?
Anything by Soar Patrol, SOAR.
Soar Patrol.
It is, and I like Soar Patrol because it's traditional Celtic music, but it's got powerful percussions in it. And that's where I think that makes me want to go to war feeling comes from is the drums and the percussion in that music. But Soar Patrol, it just makes you you either want to fight or fuck, but something's got to happen.
So if you were a closing pitcher, that would be like your walkout.
Oh, dude, I'd be in a dugout as I'm coming out to close the inning.
Soar Patrol's
right before I come out, I'd have my headphones on. I would look like some kind of crazy son of a bitch in that dugout. I'd be snorting and motherfucker, get me on the mound.
So good music. You play air guitar, air drums. Are you playing air bagpipe when you listen? What are you doing?
No, I don't do that. No, I don't do that. Usually I'm holding on to a glass of Jameson.
There we go. Got the perfect drink for the perfect. There you go.
Right. But, it's all about mood. And then conversely, when we're cooking, that's a relaxing thing for us. And oftentimes we'll listen to my wife's playlist because my playlist tends to be pick me up kind of music. That's just what I like.
Yeah.
But my wife's music she's got a different taste in music. This past weekend we were listening to the Earth, Wind and Fire channel on Pandora.
Strong.
Because she loves Earth, Wind and Fire. And it's just a soothing, kind of relaxing, but still, cool music.
All right. So we talked about you're just outside of Yellowstone. So
right.
One of my questions was going to be, and that may be the answer, and if it is, we'll get that and another one. But you've been everywhere. What's a place that everyone should visit before they die? So Yellowstone, overrated, underrated? I think Yellowstone National Park is overrated. I don't encourage my friends and family that are coming out. Really?
I say you take a ride through it. Everybody should say yes. I've seen Old Faithful, but man, I'd rather listen to paint dry, not watch it dry. Listen to it dry. That's fun. If I can make a funny guy laugh, I've had a good day. It's just, and maybe because, familiarity kind of breeds contempt a little bit, but it's beautiful. There's especially if you're coming from Indiana or, Iowa or some place where you don't get a lot of really cool scenery. It is scenic, but there's so many other cool places around it that are way more scenic, and there's less tourists. You don't have, a bus full of Chinese tourists jumping out of a 80-passenger bus to take picture of a deer on the side of the road and back traffic up for 45 minutes. That kind of stuff happens when you go through Yellowstone because there's only, it's a 2-lane highway.
Do you love seeing the videos of the people getting hit by a buffalo?
You know what? I do. I do.
I
do. Stupid sons of bitches. I've seen so much stupid stuff. People, honest, Casio, the depths of the average American's stupidity knows no bounds. It doesn't. I don't know how many people come through the east entrance of Yellowstone, just down the road from where I live every year, just down the road. I can't hit it with a Frisbee, but it's close. I'm going to guess 500,000 or more, maybe 1 million. because it gets really busy here in the summertime. If you want to visit Yellowstone and you're east of Yellowstone, chances are you're going to come through the east entrance. So all the people up and down the East Coast, Chicago, New York, Ohio, blah, 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 they all come through this little town I live in. Now, the town is only 8,000 people right now.
Okay.
This summer, well, I don't know about this summer because who knows what's going to happen. But typically, there'll be 40, 50,000 people in this area. And they're all passing through. Nobody stays for maybe a day or two, But the level of stupidity I see, I've done it. Our anniversary, when I say Mrs. B drive through the park, that's in August, right? Late August, early August. Whew, close one, Eric. Because she might listen to this.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, fuck. And I get stuck in that stupid ass traffic. People jumping out, like, oh my gosh, it's a baby deer, And meanwhile, there's 800 cars backed up while they're taking pictures of a deer, which, by the way, you can see about 3,000 of them a day if you're interested in that. It's not worth taking a picture of, for God's sake. But there are every year there's a story of some asshole, and this is usually what they do. Well, it's a couple different things. There's variations, but you either have I want to get a selfie. Yes, they fucking do that.
Yes.
Because they think that they're tame animals. These people are so stupid. They think that the park brings the animals in from zoos and puts them on display. I shit you not. I actually heard a story from someone that I believe, honestly believe, this guy's not a bullshitter, that he's a local dude, came up to him one day, a tourist, and because they were going into the park and they wanted to know what time the park puts the animals away.
Oh, no.
And here's the other stupid variation that you hear almost every year is that the last one, the big one I heard, was another Chinese guy. And I look, I write it off. I'm not a racist dude. I love Asians. I love going over to Japan. I have loved the time I spent in Korea. It's not that. But Chinese, Japanese, Korean, you can't figure that language out unless you understand the language, right? Like if you go to Germany, you can look at a stop sign that says halt, right? There's
some words that kind of cross over.
Yeah, a lot, because most languages are Latin-based, so even if you don't speak the language, if you try hard enough, you can figure it out. But not like in Russia or the Middle East or in China, Japan, you can't figure this shit out. So these people, even though there's signs everywhere, stay away from the bears. They're wild. They'll eat you. They will fucking eat you. Not just hurt you, they'll eat you when they're done hurting you. And then you'll be a steaming pile of bear shit in the middle of Yellowstone National Park. Signs everywhere. Not quite that graphic, but you get the point. And you'll see, these Chinese family get out, and they'll one guy put his little 3 or 4-year-old kid on the back of a buffalo.
What?
A buffalo weighs more than my 1995 GMC 2500 pickup. And they're fucking mean. And this idiot put it because he thought they were like living props.
I want a selfie of a tourist getting shit out by a bear. That's what I want to selfie.
Well, that one might be hard to get because that means you got to get close to the bear. You don't want to do that. You'll just be another pile.
We'll stay in the car and block up traffic.
You look like a cow pasture. But here's another dumb one. This one just happened. Now, this didn't involve an animal, but it certainly encompasses the scope of human stupidity. If you come out to Yellowstone, they have all these thermals, right? Like shit bubbling up. It's like a very volcanic area around here, believe it or not. So you get these sulfur kind of mud springs that bubble all year round, by the way. Stuff's coming up from the center of the earth. Old Faithful is another example of that kind of volcanic activity. But there's a lot of it around here. And there's areas when you go through Yellowstone, you can walk on the trail. It's a wooden trail that they built, and you can traverse over some of these areas. But if you step down in it, that shit's 180, 200 degrees, and it stinks like mud and sulfur. It's horrible smelling.
Yeah.
But these two assholes came out here about a month ago. They were camping,
Asshole.
and they wanted to cook their chickens.
What?
So guess what they came up with?
Drop them
They
in the
tried to cook their whole chickens inside of a steaming sulfur spring.
Did it work? What's happening?
No, it got them arrested. It probably cost them about $10,000, and they're banned from the park for life because they're too stupid to be allowed in.
They probably filmed it for like TikTok or something.
That happened a couple years ago. A couple kids from Canada were down here in the summertime, and they were taking movies and selfies of each other walking around in this shit. Now, they were tiptoeing around. They were careful, but still, you're not supposed to do that. You know, you could die from that shit. There's rules and stuff in the park. And these kids were playing around, and they got nabbed, and they went to jail.
All right, so Yellowstone's overrated. Go through it to say you've been, but so give us a place. Where's a place somebody should visit before they die?
Okay, but here's why I love Cody. I came out here when I was 22 years old. I had $80 in cash in my pocket. I had a MasterCard with a $120 credit limit on it. So I was just broke dick poor, right? But I didn't care. I was 22 years old. And I came out here with a buddy of mine from Minnesota. I had never been west of Minnesota. I'd never seen mountains. You know, I lived in Pittsburgh. They call them mountains, but those aren't mountains. Those are hills. I hate to break it to anybody in Pittsburgh. I love you guys. 10-0, go Steelers. Perfect. However, those are not mountains. Those are hills. And I saw hills, but I never saw mountains. So when I first came out here, I just fell in love. 22 years old, I said, someday I'm going to live here. And in 1998, which was 22 years later, I built my house here. So wow. I love this area, and I love it because there's a lot of history here. And I like American, I like Western American history in particular. I love all history, but Western American history. I love Native American history. I used to be a lot more into it than I have in the last few years. I used to read a lot of it, and especially the Native American history in and around the area that I live. You know, the Little Bighorn is about an hour and a half from me, actually. So there's just a lot of history here. But instead of going 45 minutes east of here to get into Yellowstone with a couple 100,000 idiots, if you go north of where I live, about 16.3 miles, actually, there's an area called the Chief Joseph Pass, and it cuts up through a mountain range called the Beartooth Mountains. It is the most scenic. It's the most scenic part of the United States I've ever seen. You feel like you're in Switzerland. You know, like Sound of Music kind of Switzerland. Wow. It's so beautiful that people should see it. And then if you're into history, absorb some of that. But, you know, I also, you know, I like New Orleans, you know, depending on my mood for about 5 minutes or so. I mean, it's 5 minutes. I could go to New Orleans for a weekend, but then I'd have to get out.
New Orleans is a great visit town, not a live town.
Yeah, it's like Vegas.
Yeah.
You know, I got a 72-hour limit on Vegas. By the time I get to the 65th hour or so, I'm ready to pack my shit and jog to the airport.
Are you a gambler? Are you a show guy? What are you doing in Vegas?
You know, I like shows because I love to watch people perform and, again, try to, you know, take in the process of what they do. And, you know, we've seen some amazing shows, the Blue Man Group and things like that, some comedy and music, obviously. But not much beyond that. Honestly, we don't gamble. I bet you know, I've been to Vegas maybe conservatively 100 times. I bet you I haven't spent a total of $2,000 gambling.
Wow.
In total. I just don't like it. Like once in a while, if I'm bored, you know, I'll play nickel slots or something just to kill some time.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. I don't like it. I'll spend money like a motherfucker. I'll burn him a torch when it comes to money, but I want something back for it.
Yeah.
I want a new pair of leave cash on the table and walk away with no tangible benefit. God damn. I'm horrible with money. And even I know that's a bad idea.
Yeah, it's well, I think the older you get and the more times you go to Vegas, you realize there's more to it than the gambling part. I can get great meals, like you said, great shows, the whole deal.
Both Lori and I love to people watch. That to me, that's the most fun for me. But we both are, I don't know, foodies, whatever that is. We love to eat.
Yeah.
We love to eat really good food. And there's really, really good food in Las Vegas. So if I go to Vegas, it's because and all that is fun for me. But just to people watch. Don't get any ideas, Casio. You don't know me that well when I said slutty woman. But I love the energy of it all. I just don't feel the need to partake in it. I'd rather just sit back and watch people lose their money, or in some cases be all excited because they won. I would rather live vicariously through their expenses or through their experiences than have to pay for it myself.
Expenses is the right word. Live through their expenses. All right, you mentioned also the history of the West there, which brings me. I want to talk about your run at brewing. That's fascinating to me. Getting your own beer, getting your own brewery, Buffalo Bill Cody beer. Just talk about that experience and what it was like. Was it? I mean, was it more than you anticipated? Was it less? Just tell me the whole experience. It's fascinating to me.
Yeah, and I'll try. Because if you've listened to 83 Weeks, and I know you have, I'm a talking son of a bitch. So
we love it.
Well, yeah, but listeners, sometimes it's a little too much. So I'm going to try to stay focused. Okay. I won't go off the rails on you, but I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. It's just something since the time I was 4 or 5 years old when I ran away from home. Yes, I did. And realized I had no money and I wanted to get on a bus to go to my cousin's house. Even at that age, I knew I had to have some money. So I went around my neighborhood and I picked up pop bottle caps, collected them, put them in a brown paper bag, and then sold them door to door. And I actually made money because who's going to turn away a 5-year-old kid selling a pop bottle cap? Nobody. So from that moment on, I've been an entrepreneur. And that's a really good thing. And it's also a really bad thing. It's a burden that you're blessed with because my life has been this up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down financially. I've had a blast the whole time, no matter what. But financially, if you looked at my, revenue, my income over the last 30 years, you'd go like, what the hell? But being an entrepreneur, Lori and I, we're here in Wyoming. To my point earlier, 500,000, million people come through town, and they buy every gimmick you can buy as you're coming through. Oh, a rubber tomahawk. Let's buy a rubber tomahawk. Oh, a $2 t-shirt for $19.95 that says Cody, Wyoming on it.
Yeah.
So and being the, whore that I am, I'm thinking to myself, what if, this is what always gets me in trouble, Casio, always gets me in trouble. I'm sitting outside on the porch of the Silver Dollar Bar and Saloon, downtown Cody, Wyoming. Beautiful summer day with my bride. I'm eating some onion rings, really good onion rings, by the way. Eating some onion rings. I've got ice cold beer. Well, actually, I got 6 in a bucket, but I'm drinking one of the 6. And I say to myself, honey, what if we created our own beer? And what if we were able to get the trademark for Buffalo Bill Cody? Because I'm smart enough to be dangerous. Like Michael Dawkins knows a lot of knuckleheads like me, right? Guys that think they know how to trademark shit themselves.
Sure.
Right. I'm one of those guys, or I used to be. I'm a reformed trademark expert. I went through the 12-step program. Each one of those steps probably cost me about $100,000. It was the most expensive education known to man. But so I get these ideas in my head. And again, the disease that I was born with, unfortunately, or at least contracted when I was 4 and have been afflicted with my entire life as an entrepreneur, is I go, well, I can do that. I can figure this out. And I do. And I can. And I did. But here's what happened. In my my sales pitch to myself and to my wife, although she was all about it. She's been very supportive with every stupid idea I've ever had. She supported it because she loves me, not because she agreed with it. But I thought, all right, I'm going to go on trademark.gov or USPTO, US Patent and Trademark Office.gov. It's called USPTO.gov. You can click on any idiot can do it. I'm living proof. And you can go on there and there's an area there. You go search trademark and then you plug in whatever it is you want to trademark. And up pops all of the potential conflicts or other people that have that trademark or whatever, right? So I get home and I start Google searching Buffalo Bill Cody beer on USPTO.gov. Go play with it. Like when you're really bored, you think you've got a great idea, entertain yourself. It's better than porn for an entrepreneur. For an 18-year-old, probably not. But I'm going through the whole list through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and nobody has a trademark on anything related to Buffalo Bill Cody, which I found to be amazing because Buffalo Bill Cody at one time was Elvis, the Beatles, and Michael Jackson all rolled into one. He was the most famous American personality anywhere in the world. He toured his Buffalo Bill Wild West show, toured all over Europe and Asia and North America. He was famous. Asia. Yeah.
He's going everywhere.
I'd have to check Asia. I need to be when I say Asia, I meant like India, Asia, not necessarily China, Asia.
Is this Annie Oakley's with him and stuff?
Annie Oakley was with him. Yeah. You know, there's some famous Indian chiefs, you know, that he actually fought at one point. Were a part of the tour. They shipped their horses over. All the Native Americans that were a part of the show went over. Annie Oakley went over. They brought a lot of their own whiskey because they were all alcoholics. And they would go over on a boat and then start touring in the United Kingdom and Germany, France. They were in France a lot. So anyway, Buffalo Bill Cody was so famous. I couldn't believe that nobody had trademarked anything with Buffalo Bill Cody. So here's where I get dangerously smart. Mike Dawkins will attest to this. And I haven't done this with Mike because I've since learned my lesson. But I thought, all right, now I'm going to see, because there's all kinds of really cool old Buffalo Bill Cody Wild West show posters that are all from the late 1800s and early 1900s, which means they're in the public domain, right? Nobody owns the trademark on them.
Right.
Anybody can use them for whatever they want. Put them on a T-shirt, coffee cup, doesn't make a fuck. It's public domain. So I thought, what if I could get one of those posters, get it to an artist that modifies it slightly so that it is capable of being trademarked, because you can't just trademark something that already exists. You have to take that image, tweak it a little bit. It's like changing up a song, you know, right. Change a couple bars in it, you can get away with it.
It's a remix.
Yep. So we changed up the design a little bit. You can't, if you take one of the most famous Buffalo Bill Cody posters, you know, out there, and you put it next to the label of our beer, you won't be able to tell the difference without a magnifying glass, right? So I said, I'm going to try this. So I call my attorney. This is where I'm going to speed it up. I call my attorney, and I'm in the trademark copyright business. I mean, I produce television for a living at this time, lots of it. So we've got an attorney, you know, standing by that knows this shit really well. So I called him. His name's Scott. I said, Scott, here's what I want to do. Sent him the artwork, told him what I wanted to do. I said, how much is it going to cost me to trademark Buffalo Bill Cody beer? He said, man, maybe 10 grand, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Okay, 10 grand. I'll take a flyer on 10 grand. So we go through the process. A couple of weeks later, goes back. He says, there's a few little complications out there, and we didn't really see, you know, and by the way, it's not on USPTO, so you wouldn't have seen it. So we're going to have to put a little more work and time into this. I said, okay, I'm into it, 10 grand. I said, all right, how much more? He said, maybe another 5, 6. I said, okay, I'll eat 5 or 6. Comes back. Same process. Now I'm into it for another 8 or 10. So my tab right now is getting close to 30 grand, right?
Oh, no.
No, fuck. This is just the beginning. So then we go through the actual process. Now, once you go through the initial processes of applying for the trademark, and if you don't get bounced back, if, you know, the trademark examiners don't have issues and things like that. Then you go on to the next process. Now, the next process is when your proposed trademark is published. And I don't know where they publish it, but evidently anybody that owns a trademark gets some kind of publication. And anyway, the government publishes it, makes it public record so that if anybody objects to it or has an objection for any reason, they can object with the USPTO and they'll figure it out. The government, the trademark office will figure it out. Or you will, as opposing parties. You can come to a settlement, give you $50, give you $1,000, give you a case of beer, or give you $100,000, whatever the case is.
This is your chance, though.
This is the last step. So lo and behold, some jackass in the town I live in, he actually owns a hotel. He actually owns the hotel that Buffalo Bill Cody built in 1907, and he named it after his daughter. The name of the hotel is the Irma Hotel. That was Buffalo Bill Cody's daughter's name. Well, this guy owns this hotel, and he thought he was going to come out with his own beer, but he never went through the trademark process. But he's an old guy, stubborn as the day is. He's an old cattle rancher that made a fortune in land in Colorado, and he came up here and bought this hotel and restaurant. So we get into a pissing contest, and I'm going to save you the boring details in the education, because hopefully I've talked to anybody that's listening to this out of trying to do anything that I'm talking about. When it was all done. Oh, by the way, made the front page of the business section in the Wall Street Journal. Google it. Buffalo Bill Cody beer brawl. I shit you not. Tells the whole story. You can still find it on.
That's your real life.
You can find it online to this day. I did about a month ago or two. Somebody was interested in the story, so I Googled it and forwarded it to him.
That's awesome.
Made the front of the Wall Street Journal business page because of this legal battle we were having over a Buffalo Bill Cody trademark. It was hot news around here. Well, around the country, actually. End of story. I won.
Okay.
Guess how much it cost me to win?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Give or take $200,000.
Oh, no. Wait, that's plus what you've already got in it?
The total.
Yeah,
By the time we were done, my total legal expenses to prove that I did everything right and they did everything wrong. They had no stand. They had no basis. They did nothing the right way. I did everything the right way. And it cost me $200,000 of real dollars, not money that I borrowed or raised or took a second mortgage on my house. None of that.
Right.
This was money I took out of my checking account over a period of time. I didn't have $200,000 laying around with nothing to do, but over the course of about a year and a half or 2 years, about 2 years. But when I was all said and done, it cost me about $200,000 to win. And then I had to go figure out how to brew beer, which I did. And I got some great distribution. We were one of the top selling beers in the state of Wyoming. That's kind of like, talk about being a big fish in a little pond. And this was really before, craft beers really exploded. I mean, they were getting big and they were getting popular, but here in Wyoming, not so much. Because around here, you either drink Bud or Coors. That's it. Or it used to be back then. It's changed now. So I was one of the first craft beers in this area, local craft beers. I found a contract brewer down in Fort Collins, Colorado. Excellent brewers, by the way. They contracted beer for us. I got distributors in Wyoming, Montana, Arizona. We had Phoenix, all that. Las Vegas. We were into Las Vegas and Colorado. So we had, 5-6 states, and we were growing. But the problem is we only had one beer. And what I learned as an entrepreneur who jumped into something he knew nothing about, I didn't know what I didn't know. Conrad gets sick of hearing me say that because I use that all the time because I've lived that. I didn't realize that, if you're going to be in the beer business and you want to compete with Coors and Miller and all the other big breweries, as well as a lot of the big microbreweries now, you've got to have 6, 7, 8, 9 different varieties of beer under your brewery banner. You don't sell one SKU. They just don't make room for it. It's too much work for them. It's the same amount of paperwork to keep track of an account that delivers one beer a week as it is to keep track of one distributor that delivers 80 different types of beers a week. So if you're a retailer, you're going to take the path of least resistance and not go through a lot of extra work, just have one beer. So we learned that the hard way. And I still am the proud owner of the trademark. If you Google it, if you go to uspto.gov, type in Buffalo Bill Cody beer.
Boom.
Beer, hats, jackets, mugs, keychains, trinkets, tchotchkes, vibrators, you name it. I've got the right to put a Buffalo Bill logo on it.
Wait, do you still see the guy at the Irma?
It's a father and son, and I want to be respectful. The father, he was like old as dirt when this thing started going on back in 2011. Muckerfather is still walking. I don't know how, because he smokes about 8 packs of cigarettes a day and lives on cheap whiskey, but he's still alive. Now, it's the old man that I had an issue with. His son, we get along, but we got to do it, discreetly. Can't do it in front of dad.
In the shadows. All right. That's a hell of a story just to get a beer off the ground.
Yeah. Well, lesson learned, I know more about, I don't know more about trademark law than Dawkins, but I bet you other than a practicing trademark attorney, I could probably fake it better than anybody you know.
Are you still, is Cold Smoke still number one?
Yeah, it's the best.
Number one beer.
For me, Cold Smoke, Scottish Ale. I love Scottish Ale. It's a richer, heavy, it tastes like a heavier body beer, but it's not that filling. It's really weird. It tastes full on your palate, but it's what they refer to as, here we go. Here's something else I learned for $200,000. I got to say it right. It's a session beer.
Oh, yes.
You know what a session beer is?
No. You had one.
That's what you and I drink.
It.
That's what you and I drink when we're going to pound about 6 or 8 of them.
Okay, that's it.
In a session.
That's what we need.
As opposed to an IPA, which is not a session beer because they're so heavy and rich and powerful. They're more of a dinner beer. Like if you're going to have, you're going to have a really, really good steak with a beer that you like. If you like IPAs, really hoppy beers, you're going to pick a beer that has the kind of hops that goes with your steak like wine snobs do, only you're a beer snob. That's what that kind of beer is. It's made to have 1 or 2, and then you really don't want any more. But a session beer, I liked session beers. And when I created my flavor profile, listen to me talk like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right? When we created our flavor profile, I said to the brewer, I want it to be light like a Pilsner because, I used to drink a lot of beer. I don't anymore. But I used to drink, I could sit down and drink 6-8 beers, no problem, in a couple hours in an afternoon out with my friends and stuff. But you can't do that with heavy beers. So I thought, well, if I want to sell volume, I don't want a heavy beer. I want something that's light, fresh, that even women would drink. Why not broaden the market? So my beer was really light. But the reason I like Cold Smoke, Scottish Ale, is because it's got a full taste and flavor, but it's not filling.
Have you had, I drink Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. Have you had that?
No.
I mean, it's more of a bourbon flavor, but when I heard you talk about Cold Smoke the first time, that's what it reminded me of just a different kind of beer.
There's so many good beers out there now. When it comes to beer now, like I said, I don't really drink it that much. I do, I'll drink a Coors every now and then, if I'm out or whatever, but not like nothing like I used to. I was a professional consumer. My wife will tell you that. But like now I'll have a Pabst. Don't ask me why. It's a contract beer. There actually is no such thing as a Pabst brewery. Do you know that?
No.
It's a logo, just like mine.
So it's like a franchise.
No, it's not even a franchise. It's a logo. And what the people that own the logo do is the same thing that I was doing. I own the trademark and the copyright for Buffalo Bill Cody beer. And then I would go down to Fort Collins Brewing and I gave them the flavor. I mean, we worked on it together. It's not like I made it up. I told them what I wanted. They created the profile. But, and I paid them to brew it and bottle it and ship it back to me. And then my distributor would pick it up and get it out into the marketplace. I didn't brew it. And there is no such thing as a Pabst brewery. They do the same thing. It's called contract brewing. And it's usually, it's not bad beer, but it's not like a really good beer.
Yeah.
It's cheap beer. But I like Pabst. I like Iron City. Anybody that's ever lived in a Pittsburgh area will recognize Iron City beer. It's the drizzling shits as beer quality goes, but it reminds me of the time that I lived in Pittsburgh. And I broke my beer cherry when I was about 14 years old out camping with my buddy. He stole 2 or 3 from his parents. I stole a couple from my parents. And we'd sit out there and just have all kinds of fun with the Playboy and a campfire.
An Iron City beer.
An Iron City beer. And then the other one I'll drink, if I can get it, is Grain Belt, which is a local Minneapolis beer.
Okay.
It used to be now. It's changed hands a bunch of times. I don't know who brews it anymore, but I'll drink that. I like cheap local beers, everyman beers. I'm not a snooty beer drinker.
All right, let's talk about food. You talk about loving to cook, loving to make things from scratch. Do you have a food weakness? There's something that gets you every time? Not
every time. It's funny that way. No.
Are you a midnight snacker?
No. Okay. I mean, I used to be. Again, my diet has changed a lot over the last 5 or 7 years. Not like I didn't wake up and go, oh my God, I got to change my diet or anything like that. It's just, I like to feel good. And I've always been able to notice a very strong connection between whatever it is I ate or drank and how I feel. My body's like, for example, I can't eat sugar. I'm not a diabetic or anything like that, not pre-diabetic. In fact, I'm as far away from it as you can get. I probably haven't had, like a cupcake or a piece of pie. I'll eat pie on holidays. But for the most part, last time I ate a candy bar, I don't know, 1967.
Really?
I don't even know. I'm joking. I was probably not.
But it was young. You were a long time ago.
Because I realized when I was young that sugar put me to sleep. Like if I had a candy bar when I was in school, my fucking head would hit the desk like I was taking Xanax. It would bounce. It would make noise. I just And then as I got into my teens, I wrestled in high school and things like that and worked out a lot and was physical. And I just noticed that if I had anything sweet, I would just lose all motivation. Then I read a book called Sugar Blues back in 1976. And then I understood why I felt the way that I did, because sugar is really evil and it's in everything. You've got to make a conscious effort to stay away from sugar. Because they give, when they process foods, they give sugar all kinds of different names. They don't call it sugar. There's 30 different names for sugar, and you don't recognize them unless you're a chemist or in the food processing business. So people think they're getting something sugar-free, and they're not. So I had to make a real effort to stay away from sugar. Well, in the process of learning all of this and adjusting my diet so that I felt the way I wanted to feel based on whatever it is I was doing, I started fine-tuning my diet very, very early on. And now, for example, I eat under 25 carbs a day. The average person probably eats 300 to 400 carbs a day.
Okay.
I focus on nutritional fat. People hear fat. Oh, fat's bad for you. No, fat's not bad for you. Bad fat's bad for you. But nutritional fat is really, really good for you. For example, I get my blood work done just as a routine because, I'm 65 years old. I want to stay ahead of my shit. I don't want to find out 6 months after I have something that I have it. I want to know before I have something. So I go in and get a blood panel done twice a year. And inevitably, my doctor will come back to me and go, what the hell? What do you do? My cholesterol is off the charts good. None of the risk factors that are normally associated with Americans my age, I have 0 of them. My blood panel is probably better than most 30-year-olds because of my diet. So because of that, I don't eat a lot of snacks. When I do have a craving for something, I would say Indian food, really, really good Indian food. You know how when certain foods will make your jaws tighten up, you just get a physical reaction to something really, really good. That's me with Indian food, really spicy Indian food, the kind that makes you sweat down the back of your head. Not your eye. Anybody can make you sweat on your eyebrows. That's bullshit. That doesn't mean a fucking thing. When you can feel the drips of sweat pouring down your back, bam!
That's where it
hot.
hits Bischoff in the sweet spot right there.
That's hot. And I have a crave. I'll crave that every once in a while.
All right, we're gonna have to adapt. We're gonna hit the countdown in just a second because I'm gonna have to adapt one of the questions since you don't eat sugar. Because I usually ask everybody about Little Debbie's. That's kind of the gimmick here. But I'm gonna have to switch it since you don't eat sugar.
Well, I used to when I was a kid. Debbie? No, of course. When I was a kid, like before when I was like 6, 8, 10, 12 years old, I pound those fuckers like they were nothing. My mom would go get a big box of Little Debbie's, and a day later they'd be gone, and I'd be getting yelled at. All right,
since I'm going to switch it out of the, I'm going to give you a better question in the countdown since you hadn't had it in a while. But give me one Little Debbie. What would you say is favorite? Anything? Oatmeal cream pie, Star Crunch, Nutty Buddy.
What were they called?
Cake.
Ding dong? Were they called ding dongs?
Yeah, ding dongs were like the cupcakes, kind of.
Yeah, no. They were like a long cupcake. They looked like elongated cupcake, not a round cupcake, but long.
Okay, yeah, kind of like a Twinkie shape.
Yeah, I remember that one. I ate the hell out of that one. And then there was one, I don't know what the name of it was. I didn't know there was different varieties of Little Debbie's, but it was cake and it was covered in a hard chocolate shell with walnuts on top.
With walnuts.
Yeah, that was awesome. I love those.
We're gonna have to look into that one. All right, let's get to. We got two things. We're gonna do the countdown to end it, but since you've talked about it, and anybody listens to 83 weeks, you've even said it. You like to get in the weeds a little bit with some of your answers, which is what some people love, some people don't love. I love you. To me, it just shows the passion of whatever you're talking about. But we're gonna try, and I don't know if you can do it, but I'm gonna shoot out a word. You give me one word answer. You can be anything. Word association.
See this feels like now I feel like I'm in 7th grade again, and Mrs. Fields, my teacher, is going to call on me in class. And Vivian Shostak, the hot little chick that lives down the street, is sitting to my right, and she's going to see how dumb I am because Mrs. Fields is going to call on me and she's going to ask me a question I should know the answer to, or I should be able to respond to quickly, and thereby impress little Vivian Shostak. She was my first crush. That's what I feel like right now. Vivian, don't listen to this.
Some of these are going to be guttural. I mean, I don't think you're having a problem with them, a lot of these.
I'm nervous.
Some of them are names. Some of them are items. All right. So let's go out of the gate. Shivani.
Class.
Zabisco.
Full of shit.
It's supposed to be. Like you said it fast, so it's one word. All right.
But we'll say shitful. I don't even know if that's a word, but we just made it up.
I like shitful. All right. Honky tonk.
A clown.
AEW.
Exciting.
NXT.
Not so much.
WWE.
Amazing.
Honky tonk.
Did we just do honky tonk?
Oh, you did it. Yeah. Yeti.
Yeti. Legendary. I dressed up as Yeti for the All Hallows Eve Havoc on Patreon. Certain things are so bad that they become cool and good.
Yeah.
And Yeti is an example. People will be talking about Yeti and Ron Reese, the character that played Yeti. Not many people know his name.
He's a great guy.
They know Yeti. And they will be talking about him for as long as professional wrestling exists.
Got the privilege to meet him at StarCast, and absolute great guy.
One of the nicest people you'll meet.
All right, let's keep going.
He's also the tallest person with the shortest arms in America.
What?
He's got pterodactyl arms.
I'm going to have to go look at it again.
Go watch him on TV.
He really is a giant human.
No, he's huge. He's legit almost 7 foot tall, but his arms aren't any longer than mine. It looks funky.
All right. Let's keep going. Conrad.
Oh. Brilliant.
Okay. Tans.
Who?
Tans.
Tan?
Yeah. Tans.
I'm looking for one word to say what I want to say. How do I say the most important asset an entertainer could possibly have in one word?
Important.
There you go. That's boring though, but go ahead. I'll take it. I can't think of anything better, so we'll take it.
All right. Eggnog.
A guilty pleasure.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's my Xanax. I'll have it. I'll have it at Christmas because I have to now. There'll be massive amounts of Jameson mixed with it, but
All right.
because that's so good.
Okay.
But 45 minutes after I drink that thing, I'll be sleeping with my dog in the corner of the room.
All right. Pizza.
Important.
Important.
It's important.
I thought you were going to hate it.
No, I love pizza.
I thought it had carbs. It's going to have some kind of.
Oh, it does. It does. But just because I don't eat stuff like that every day, like once a week or maybe once every 2 weeks, not more than once a month, Mrs. B and I will either make one from scratch or we'll buy one.
What's perfect pizza?
Perfect pizza for me. I'm a basic. I like thin crust, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms, lots of extra tomato, heavy onion, and occasionally jalapenos.
Yeah. All right. Let's go back to one words here. Beer.
Beer?
Yeah.
Nectar.
Heyman.
Ooh. Complex.
Okay. Meltzer.
I want to be kind here, really. For people that are listening to your show who listen to 83 Weeks, I go off on Meltzer all the time. I know many of them think that that's just an act. You know, Meltzer tells people, that's a work. He's just being a character. So I want to be really careful here and be as gracious as I can be. Smegma. Do you know what smegma is?
Is that dick cheese?
Yep. It's the foul-smelling cheese-like substance that forms on the end of an uncircumcised penis.
All right. All right. I had some guesses there. It was not smack. All right. Last few here. What we got? Pillman.
Oh, wow. Pillman. Boy, that's a tough one. Tough one for me.
Emotional.
Sorry?
What's your word?
I you know what? The first thing that came to my mind was sad.
Okay.
But being a producer at heart, I don't want to give people the wrong impression. Sad because his life was cut so short.
Right.
And he could have been so much more. He could have reached such higher levels of success than he did had he not gotten, fucked up with drugs and shit. In a pretty amazingly bizarre life. He went through a lot. So not being critical or anything, but man, the guy could have been legendary. He could have been Bret Hart status. He could have been Ric Flair status. He could have been.
All right. Greg.
Greg who?
You do the math.
Gagne?
Yeah.
Phony.
Social media.
Wow, that's a good one. Dangerous.
Okay. And last one, Alvarez.
Now, this is a little jock sniffing writer. Like, this is like Dave Meltzer's CP3O, right?
Okay. Yeah. You're on the right track.
I'll just go with jock sniffer.
Okay. I was about to say you had some good ones going in there. That's good. All right. Well, one more. I forgot one more because we took one out. Unions.
Fuck. Casio.
It's hard for one word.
It's hard for one word. And because I feel I'm torn, I've talked about it.
There's your
one word
torn.
is tough. Huh?
There's your word, torn.
Torn. Okay, good. Thank you for your help. I appreciate it. For a guy that doesn't know how to shut the fuck up, these one word challenges
I know.
torture.
That's why I did it. I wanted to see. You did way better than I thought, by the way.
Well, thank you for that. Vivian, how did I do, Vivian? Want to go for a bicycle ride after school? Maybe let me hold your hand or whatever.
She's impressed.
Peel off those Bobby bricks and let me do what I please.
She's super impressed right now somewhere.
She was so hot, Casio. I mean, I was
Vivian
Shostak. Szostak. Vivian
Shostak. Since school?
Huh?
Have you seen her since school?
Oh, no, not since like the 5th grade or 6th grade, but she's still on my mind.
Nice. Vivian out there somewhere.
She's out there somewhere. I don't know if she'll hear this or not, but yeah, what could have been, Vivian?
All right, we do the countdown 10-1. You can do whatever you want with these. You can be as long or as short as any of these. All right. This is a get to know Eric Bischoff. 10. Name something that's a perfect 10 in your life.
My marriage.
Boom. Number 9. 9, of course, is the German word for no. Name something you wish you could write off.
Like financially write off or write off like it never happened?
No, like no more. It's no more.
Oh, like I'm not going to do it anymore?
Yeah. Or you wish it didn't exist, or you wish we'd be better without it, whatever.
Taxes.
All right, here we go. Number 8. What do you want when you die? What do you want to be the last thing you ate? So what's your last meal? You can mix and match. You can go home cooking, mix with a restaurant somewhere, top to bottom. What do you got for your last meal?
I would like to eat myself to death at a sushi bar.
Yeah. Just all of it they can bring.
And I'll even eat some bad fugu. You know what fugu is? Fugu is a type of fish that when it's prepared, the sushi chef has to be really careful how they cut the fish up, because if they pierce the fish's bladder, there's a poison in it.
Oh.
And you can die from this shit. You can really die from it. So it's a delicacy because it's dangerous. See, people that are really smart love to live on the edge even when they eat fish. So when you're eating it, the chef that's preparing it, they have to be licensed. That's how dangerous this fish is. But because it's so dangerous and it's shrouded in mystique, and because some people dig the fact that whatever you can eat might kill you in an instant, almost like a James fucking Bond movie, it's a real rarity in Japan, and I've had it and loved it. Want to hear a quick story?
Bring it.
I promise. I don't mean to eat up all your podcast time.
I got nothing to do today. Go.
You may have some important muckerfuthers waiting in line, and I'm just taking up all their time.
I got nothing.
Sonny Ono and I go to Japan. One of the first times he and I go to Japan together. And all I did was eat and drink. Because that's what Japanese do. They take you out to dinner, they entertain you. Japanese are great hosts. So one night, Sonny and I, we finally get some time by ourselves, and we weren't part of a big party and business and all that. We just want to go hang. And I told Sonny, I said, I want to go to the sleaziest part of Tokyo. I don't want to go to the Ginza. I don't want to go to the place, the most expensive square footage in the world. I don't want to go those places. I want to go where like the workers go. I want to drink in a Japanese bar, not a cool bar, a tourist bar.
Yeah. So
he takes me into this part of Tokyo. It's called Shinjuku. All of the boys know it because that's where the Kyo Plaza, which was the hotel that New Japan used, was only half a mile from Shinjuku. So we go in there, and it's seedy as fuck, but it's cool. Like, that's where all the Yakuza hang out. You see them all standing out in front of the tiny little video stores, and they're smoking their cigarettes and looking like badasses. They weigh all of about 80 pounds. Doesn't mean they're not badasses, but still, it's just weird. And we're walking around, we're drinking, and finally we get a little bit outside of the seediest part of Shinjuku, and we find this fugu bar that specializes in fugu. So I like saying fugu.
Fugu.
Yeah, it's like whenever Trump says China, he doesn't say China, he says China. I say fugu. And fugu, China, fugu.
So we shouldn't say it like you if we ever order fugu.
No, I wouldn't. But I like saying it. I entertain myself. And we go into this fugu restaurant, And it's a nice restaurant. It's not seedy. It's pretty upscale, right? Because it's expensive fish. So we sit down, server comes over, we order a big plate of fugu. And as I'm eating it, I go, because that's what happens. You all your blood vessels and your air passages and everything all seize up, right? I'm sitting there, Sonny doesn't know I'm fucking with him, right? I can't. Sonny, I can't. All the servers and shit are starting to fucking panic. I just wanted to rib Sonny. I didn't want to rib the restaurant, but they took that shit really seriously. And I'm not sure if we got to finish our meal or not, but we left there.
So they don't know it's poison until it's poison. Like, can they tell they've punctured the bladder?
No.
So you're just taking a gamble.
Yeah. But it's a safe gamble. People do it every day.
Right.
I think if you went out and bought a raw fugu fish at the fish market and brought it home and said, I'm going to Google that. How do you do that? Honey, hand me that knife. And you've never done it before. Chances are you die.
Right.
But a trained sushi chef who's licensed, who's been to fugu school at the University of Fugunomics, knows how to do it.
I can't wait for the shirt, University of Fugunomics. Okay. So you're eating yourself to death at a sushi bar with fugu. Yep. You don't even care if they pierce the bladder because you're going out anyway.
No, I wouldn't eat myself to death on fugu because fugu doesn't really have much of a taste. It's the idea of eating it.
It's just the excitement.
Yeah. So I would go deep on yellowtail, like really, really good yellowtail. I love monkfish liver.
Monkfish liver.
Monkfish liver is delicious. I love uni. You know what uni is?
I've heard of it.
If you see it, it looks like kind of a bronzy colored custard, right?
Okay.
What it actually is what they actually are the gonads of a sea urchin.
The gonads
of a sea urchin. They are the sexual apparatus of a sea urchin.
And how do sea urchin gonads taste?
I love them. I eat the shit out of them.
Put a quail egg. Salty.
Put a quail egg on it. Oh, awesome.
You're in. All right. So we're going whole sushi boat on the way out. 7. When you were 7 years old, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A physical therapist.
Really?
Right? Yeah. My dad, when I was really young, like maybe 3 or 4 years old, 5 years old, maybe at the most, my dad had brain surgery. And he was a healthy, strong, physically active, kind of tough guy, liked to hunt, fish, built shit, built our first house. Him and a buddy of his built the house from the ground up. And then he had these really bad headaches. And they found out that he actually had a hole in the spine where the spine connects to the cerebral cord or wherever. And he was born prematurely, and when he was born, the spine never fully developed. So he was like when he was 25 years old or 28 years old, but however old he was, for all of his life, there had been this little leakage of cerebral fluid that would drain and end up kind of pooling up in that hole in his spine, and then it created pressure on the spinal cord, and he had really, really severe headaches. So he had to have brain surgery. Now, this is like 1960, maybe 1. Maybe 2. I don't think so. Maybe 1 or 2. And when he came out of that brain surgery, he was paralyzed. So at a very early age, because I had to live through, my mom, I didn't have to live through it. I had to watch it, but my mom had to live through that. And all the way up to the time I was a senior in high school, I wanted to be a physical therapist.
So he had rehab going on. So you saw that as
well. He couldn't afford rehab, and rehab wasn't a thing back then. It was sorry. Have to learn to live with it. But, just watching him struggle, and I think more than watching him struggle was watching my mom have to take care of him, right, and his frustration. That's where it hit me. I could see, because I had to live it. We lived in a 750 square foot house with my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister and my grandmother, smoked like a fucking fire. And I had to live with that and see all that as a young kid. And it was bad. It was not pleasant. So it made me, once I got a little older and heard my dad talking about physical therapy and trying to exercise and trying to learn how to use his arms and he had no nerves, his nerves was gone. And when they did the brain surgery, they destroyed the nerves that controlled the hands. And there was no real there was physical therapy, don't get me wrong. Otherwise I wouldn't have known what it is, but it wasn't like physical therapy today at all.
Right. Was there a conscious pivot later in life out of it, or did it just?
Yeah, when I was about in 10th grade, 9th or 10th grade, the summer between my 10th grade year and my 11th grade year, I worked in an animal hospital, which I absolutely loved. It was one of my favorite jobs, and all I did was like clean kennels and take care of cats and dogs and shit, feed them, and some of them I'd have to walk, But I would also assist the doctor during surgeries. And I found that to be fascinating. For a while in high school, I wanted to be a vet because I've always loved animals. But I'm not, I've never been college material. So once I kind of realized by my junior year, early senior year, that college was not my calling, I had to kind of give up on the vet thing. And then I just went back to, basically selling pop bottle caps out of a brown paper bag, only different.
Meat out of a truck, right?
Eventually, well, not really, but kind of, sort of.
That's the story, made out of a truck.
Yeah, that's a narrative. We'll just go with it. We'll just go with it because it sounds cool.
All right, number 6. How do you want to end up 6 feet under? How do you want to die?
We've already covered that.
Sushi boat?
Fuck yeah. It's, I would have said, years ago, I would have said having sex with my wife, but that, I don't want to leave that on my wife. I mean, that would be a horrible thing to do to someone you love, there'd be some guilt there that would be tough to get rid of, I think. And you'd be blaming yourself and all kinds of stuff. So as much fun as that sounds, probably not a good thing for your partner. So since dying in the middle of an amazing sexual adventure doesn't really work, I'm going to go with a sushi boat.
Do you ever think about like Jax from Sons of Anarchy? Just get on the cycle and go?
Not to get heavy, but I have thought about, maybe we all have. Maybe I'm just weird. I'm not sure. I think some people think about, what if I was faced with catastrophic news? What if someone told me I had terminal cancer? What if somebody told me I had a brain tumor and I had a month to live?
A spot where you didn't want to suffer.
Yeah, because that's not going to work for me. We'll go on the record right now. Someday, hopefully 25 or 30 years from now, somebody will go, fuck, he said it back then and he was right. He meant it. Because I've had friends, unfortunately, that have been through that, and I've watched them go through that. I don't have horses anymore, but I did up until about a year and a half ago. And there's an area that I used to ride a lot way up in the mountains, like 15, 18 miles up into the mountains. When I used to go elk hunting, we'd go up on horseback. And it is some of the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen. And whether it is or it isn't, it's a subjective opinion. But for me, it's special. I feel really different when I'm there than I do anywhere else on the planet. And there's a certain stretch of that trail that we used to ride on that the trail was that wide, maybe that wide. I mean, like the horse had to be, now good thing, horses have a good, self-preservation instinct. So, and they're very short-footed. So it's fucking scary though. If you know a lot about horses and you've ridden a lot, you're not quite as nervous about it. But if you're a newbie, you swear to God, you're going to die because you're looking straight down for 4,000 or 5,000 feet. When you get to the bottom, there's nothing but rocks. But I thought at one point, I remember being up there and I'm thinking, man, if that ever happened to me and I got that bad news, I actually had planned it out. Not to sound morbid, but just to illustrate how determined I am never to be in the position that people are in sometimes. I think a lot if I have anything to say about it.
Right.
But I figured, okay, I'm going to take my horse up here. His name is Lucky. And I'm going to get off that horse. I'm going to drop his saddle. I'm going to smack him in the ass because horses instinctively will always go back to where they started from. Always. Okay. They will find their way back. for sure. 100 out of 100 times they'll find their way back. So I said, because I don't want the horse to suffer. So I figured I'm just going to get up here where I want to be. I'm going to take my saddle off my horse, take a deep breath of fresh air. Off I go.
There you go. Well, that's the perfect way out for you. You're at a place you love. You got there, enjoyed the ride, and you're going
beautiful scenery. Not that I want to do that, by the way. I don't want to make it sound appealing. I'm going to say, like, I can't wait for it to happen. Hopefully it never does happen.
That's going to be
Hopefully I go in my sleep. You know, my father passed away in his sleep. So I'm aspiring, you know, at some point. And when it's my time, hopefully I'm going, you know, I'm going in my sleep. That'd be great. But if I was faced with the other situation, I know right where I'd be.
Taking one last ride with Lucky. All right.
Taking one last ride with Lucky. I'd have to borrow a horse now. I don't have my own horse anymore, so I'd have to borrow one.
Somebody's gonna be like, Eric's borrowing a horse. We might need to check on. He's asking about horses. We need to check on.
If my neighbor Doris down the road, she's a good friend of mine. She's an older lady that's got a bunch of great horses, and I go down and see her horses because I don't have my own anymore. So if she heard this,
she's going to hear this. She's going
to hear this and go, well, he doesn't get to borrow any of my horses anymore.
I'm calling some people. All right, five-figure discount. What's the last thing you stole?
Oh,
accidentally from the grocery store, something from a hotel, walk out on a tab. Oh, that's a long time ago if you're thinking this far.
I mean, yeah, when I was a kid, you know, we used to steal model cars. You know, I don't think they even maybe they make them anymore. They come in a little box and you put these little hot rods together and paint them and put really cool tires on them and shit. They were like 75 cents or 50 cents if you bought one, but we had more fun stealing them, like when I was 8 or 9. But I feel guilty really easily. That's another weird part of my nature. I feel guilty if I think I might be doing something wrong. I'd be the worst criminal in the world. I would.
You got the telltale heart. Your conscience is eating.
I've got no balls when it comes to doing anything wrong like that. So I would have to say, you know, maybe a couple candy bars in a model car when I was a little kid.
Back in the day. All right. Now 4, we usually do Mount Rushmore, Little Debbie. Well, we discussed that. So I'm gonna switch it up. Give me 4. Let's go Mount Rushmore of TV shows.
Ooh, good one. Current, past, all of the above.
Yeah. Now this. You're not telling us, hey, this is the definitive best shows ever. But just for Eric Bischoff, what's your top 4 TV shows of all time?
MASH.
Okay.
Sky King.
Sky King.
You don't know that one, do you?
No.
Google it.
I can't wait to.
It was on Saturday morning, right before Big Time Wrestling on CKLW out of Windsor, Canada. It was my Saturday morning, you know, go-to right before wrestling.
Okay.
It inspired me to learn how to fly an airplane, which I did.
Was it like Airwolf? Is it like a drama?
No, it was like Sky King. He was like a local rancher sheriff, but he had his own airplane. And whenever somebody was in trouble, they would call Sky King and he'd go search for the little kid or the lost dog or find the bank robbers or all that kind of shit. But he had his own plane.
Clear blue of the western sky comes Sky King.
That was my favorite show. So much so that in 1997, 6 or 7, I got my private pilot's license and I bought my own airplane because of that damn show. Another learning experience.
I thought you were going to say you tried to trademark Sky King.
No, but I bought a fucking $250,000 airplane that I didn't need.
Even a bigger gamble. All right, I like it. All right, we got Sky King, MASH, 2 more.
Oh, Friends was a great show. I like Friends, and Breaking Bad, man. Breaking Bad changed everything.
So good. So good. All right, 3 albums on a deserted island. So again, kind of like TV show, you're not saying these are the 3 best albums, but you're stuck on an island, so you can go live, you can go a greatest hits album, whatever you want.
Oh, now I have to figure out what kind of mood do I want to be in when I'm on that island, because I pick my music based on the mood that I want to feel. Like some people use drugs and alcohol. So I would want to kind of raise my spiritual awareness, because if I'm on an island, I better get my shit straight, right?
Right.
I'd probably go with Santana, self-titled album.
Yeah.
Smooth was on there. Yeah, probably go there. I'd go Hotel California, because after all, I'm stuck on a fucking island. I'm checking in and I can't check out.
All right.
So,
plus, it's got great tunes on it too. That's a good one.
I have to. And then Fleetwood Mac,
Ooh.
Go Your Own Way. Come on.
All right.
That would be inspiration for me.
All right. I like it. All right. Number 2, you give me 2 concerts. The first concert you ever went to and the last one you've been to.
Well, last one I bought tickets for was the Rolling Stones until this fucking COVID thing hit. Now I get an announcement from Ticketmaster once a month saying we're still TBD, fuckers. It's the Rolling Stones. They're not going to be around that much longer. Fuck.
Just risk it. They need to go. They need to risk it.
No shit. If there was ever what do they call that when you're not a special needs? That's essential personnel right there.
Yeah, essential workers, Rolling Stones.
Because it's shocking to me that they've been alive this long.
How many times?
Come on, Keith Richards. Keith Richards and Ric Flair are they're gonna be around after we're all
They're
gone.
zombies. They're zombies. How many times have you seen them?
Oh God,
a bunch. 2
the Rolling Stones never. Rolling Stones, I've never seen them. And they came out in 1965 when I was in 5th grade, dude. I was listening to I Can't Get No Set. I used to have a garage band. Believe it or not, I had a garage band. Tony Passarelli was our drummer. Rick Reno was on lead guitar. Yours truly was lead vocals. And I had a tambourine.
What's the first song y'all learned?
I can't get no satisfaction. I can't get no satisfaction. I can't get no girl
How
reaction.
did you miss them throughout the years?
I could relate to that song because it's all about not getting laid.
I thought it's going to be your entrepreneur spirit. You're going getting laid. I like it. How did you miss those throughout the years? How did you miss the Stones?
I was never going to concerts was never my thing. Once I was old enough to actually go to a concert, with my friends or by myself or with a date or whatever, it's just, I've never liked crowds. I'm not antisocial by any stretch, but I get almost claustrophobic around people, around crowds, not around people, but if there's too many of them and they're too close together and too close to me, it's not bad. I don't get like crazy or anxiety. Well, I get a little anxiety. I just don't like it.
Is it the fear of it could get out of control?
No fear. It's not about fear. It's feeling constricted. Okay. It's like I'm not a hugger like some people are. Some people are very much I'm not like that. My wife and my kids, different. Beyond that, you're getting a handshake. Unless there's something really special going on. And it's not, there's no phobia. I'm not a germaphobe. I'm the opposite of a germaphobe. I immerse myself in so much bacteria and germs on a regular basis, and I'm absolutely convinced I'm impervious to whatever kills most people. Right. Because my immune system has been fighting this shit. I don't wash my hands 30 times a day. And, I will literally pick shit up off the floor and eat it if it doesn't look too filthy. I just don't care. It's not that guy. But when I'm in a crowd, I never went to parties in high school or college for the same way. I would get invited to big, frat parties and shit like that. I'd walk in, grab a beer, and walk out, and I'd be down by nickel beers at the red carpet in St. Cloud State because I never didn't like crowds. To this day, I go to bars that normally people. It's why I like to go to dive bars. It's why I don't like going to nice fancy bars where the music's really loud, people are talking over each other. It's just like fuck this.
Let's just sit in our space and enjoy the evening.
Absolutely.
So do you even remember your first one? Your first concert? Did you ever?
First concert, I think it was Elton John.
Okay, that's strong.
In the 70s. Yeah, early 70s. Yeah, like 72.
He was on top of the world.
72 or 73. Tumbleweed Connection was the album. Bernie Taupin was his writer. Bernie Taupin was when Bernie Taupin and Elton John were together. And that was early, probably through Madman Across the Water. And then Bernie and Elton quit writing. Listen to me sound like a fucking music historian. I only
Did
know
you watch
this.
the movie?
No.
Did you watch Rocket Man?
No, I only know this because I loved Elton John's music. When I was in
All right.
college, I must have listened to Tumbleweed Connection 3,000 times a month. But Bernie, if you go back and you read the lyrics to a lot of Elton John's early music, especially in Tumbleweed and even Madman Across the Water, there's a lot of story, and a lot of that story, like Indian Sunset, I think that's on Madman. It's either Madman or Tumbleweed. I haven't listened to it in years. But Indian Sunset is a song that every time I hear it, it's one of those songs that it takes me somewhere. I see a movie in my head when I hear that song.
Where
it's
you at?
that good of a story.
You're picturing the lyrics as the movie?
I was talking to, do you know Andrew Pope?
I know the name.
Andrew Pope is a country western music. He's from Fort Payne, Alabama. Super guy. He's launched a podcast. He's a really, really good musician, country guy, and real country guy, old school. No, when I say that, because country music now is very poppy. I guess it's still country music, but that's not the kind of country music I grew up on. Andrew loves real old school country music, and he's a young guy. But he and I were talking about music and how I relate to music and so forth. And I told him the same thing I'm telling you is, for me, any song that allows me to close my eyes and picture a movie, and I do. There are certain songs. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember his name now because he's a new artist that I just started listening to. Ben. I'll think of Ben's last name before we wrap. No, not country at all. He's British. I think he's Irish. I love his music because his music is, I see a movie in my head when I hear that music. Indian Sunset on Madman Across the Water is an amazing story. I love Bruce Springsteen because Bruce Springsteen tells you a story. There's a movie in his music. Bob Dylan, I could never get my head around Bob Dylan's voice. Sounds like a fucking chainsaw. But if you read the lyrics to his music, they're amazing. Willie Nelson, Redheaded Stranger.
Oh,
another amazing song that I used to listen to when Lori and I first met. We would drive back and forth. I have a podcast. But we would drive back and forth between Chicago and Minneapolis for a while. And we would, in the summertime, we crank up Willie Nelson. And, I always used to love listening to Redheaded Stranger. It's a redheaded stranger from Blue Rock, Montana. They rode into town one day, and it goes on from there. And it tells you this amazing, cool story. I love that kind of music.
Painting the picture. All right, number one, last one. If you had to pick an event, an episode, a pay-per-view, something from your career, and that was on your, I guess, video tribute after you're gone, what do you want to be on there? What do you want to be playing? Specific episode of Nitro, or Raw, or pay-per-view? What do you want?
If I had to pick an episode, I would pick Bash at the Beach 96 because that moment changed the industry forever, in my opinion. It just changed so many things, and we didn't even know it at the time. Everything changed right then. But if I had to pick a scene that I was involved in, Chuck and Billy's wedding for WWE.
Yes. Okay, just the legacy and just what it was all about.
Yeah, I mean, the business side of me, I think what I, at least in my mind, have convinced myself I've accomplished in my career. I'm very proud of the fact that we changed the wrestling industry, so much so that it still manifests today. A lot of the things that we take for granted today are a result of things that I started in 1995, from a 2-hour live television show, which never happened before, on a weekly basis, to putting higher quality matches on TV. I used to get my balls busted all the time by critics for, putting, pay-per-view quality matches on TV. Well, guess what? It worked. It worked for everybody. Everybody's business was elevated as a result. And the pay-per-view business was elevated as a result. So it did no harm, and it actually did great things for everybody. WWE, WCW, AEW wouldn't be around today if it wouldn't have been for what I did in 1995 with Nitro and 1996, because that caused the wrestling industry to explode to a level it had never, ever been, and no one ever thought it could be. And people are still benefiting from that today. People are still reaching for that level of success today.
You say you didn't realize Bash of the Beach, how big it was at the time. When do you think you realized how big it really was?
About 2 years ago when I started doing this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, because I've never, Casio, I don't genuflect, word of the day. I like to pick one word that I hardly ever use it. Genuflect. I don't genuflect. I don't look backwards. I don't live in the past. I often joke about, having a bad memory. It's not that I have a bad memory. I remember shit that I need to remember, or that's important. I just don't waste a lot of time and energy trying to remember shit that doesn't fucking matter. But because of that, I didn't really think much about my career until we started doing the podcast. And it forced me to, because I didn't enjoy it. Conrad and I were just talking about this morning. We recorded a podcast. The first 6, 8, or 10 episodes that he and I did together, I'm surprised we got to 11, especially after the first couple. I made him miserable. I felt like, what the fuck? I was so off base because I was defensive. I've been getting, criticized and, bullshit narratives of Dave Meltzer and whatever that little fucking CP30 jock sniffer punk that hangs around him is. I've been listening to that stuff for 30 fucking years. And that's the part of me that was a little defensive. And when, Conrad would, back in 1996, Meltzer said this, and we're like, oh my God, I got to go through this again.
Right.
But it got to the point where I got through that. I got through my own defensiveness. And I also learned that I kind of went into the podcast thinking, okay, well, that's what the audience wants. The audience wants red ass Eric. Conrad's going to be my protagonist, or he's going to be the antagonist. I'm going to be the protagonist, and we're going to fucking fight and argue. That's what the show is. We never discussed it. I just assumed that. So not only was I defensive, but I turned up the volume on the defensiveness to the point that Conrad probably was thinking, what the fuck? I mean, we got into it on one show that he was hot, and I could tell it when we talked for a minute afterwards, after the show was over, and we cleared it up pretty quick, but it wasn't pretty. The first few episodes. But once I got past the defensiveness of it all and learned to look at it in a fun way. Yeah. And I've never had a problem admitting mistakes. God knows I've made so many of them. I got used to that shit a long time ago. So it wasn't that. But for whatever reason, my whole perspective on things changed. And when it changed, it kind of like cleared the air. Maybe because I started thinking about it and putting things in perspective that I never really thought about before, because I don't think about the past. I don't give it any of my energy. I don't let it take up any space in my fucking head. But when I'm doing the podcast talking about that, I have to. And when I started really analyzing things and really going back and watching shows that I had never watched before, I did it live. I was there, but I never watched it. And now going back and watching those shows to prep, it forces me to realize really bad mistakes and weaknesses and flaws. Part of that is just growing and maturing and getting experience now 30 years later. And part of it is just dumb ideas. But I also see a lot of other things. And if I step back and go, okay, what was WWE in 1994? What was their business model? How do they operate? How do they operate in 1997? Well, there was a drastic fucking difference. And guess how that came about? Because they had to emulate our formula. They had to catch up to us. We forced WWF to change their entire creative model. And I'm proud of that. And it worked, and it worked for them. They went public as a result of it. They turned into $1 billion company. They're worth $3-4 billion even now. When their stock's flying at half mast, they're still worth $3 billion. That would have never happened had it not been for the Monday Night Wars. The Monday Night Wars would have not happened had it not been for me. And I know I sound like I'm going to hurt myself, patting myself on the back, but it's true.
Yeah.
And I feel really good about that. So from a business perspective, probably that that pay-per-view in July 1996, because that was a real pivot point that changed a lot of people's lives for the better, even today. But from a performer's perspective, I've never done anything remotely as good as that scene I did at Chuck and Billy's wedding. And that had nothing to do with me. That had everything to do with everybody else involved and the commitment that WWE made for the mask and all of that. I mean, it was just a really, really well-produced scene that probably anybody could have done, but I happened to be lucky enough to do it.
Everybody go watch both of those right now when you get through this. And I'm going to clear the air because I was mad at you for many years, Eric. Because I sent in my Nitro tape to win a Nitro party, and you didn't pick it. And I'm going to be honest, it was a fire Nitro party, okay? I don't know if you threw it straight in the trash or if it sat on your desk, but you killed me. I just knew we were going to win a Nitro party.
I am so sorry.
I knew the Nitro girls were coming to Gadsden, Alabama.
I don't blame you for being hot, brother. Shit.
But thank you, man. I appreciate your time. It has been absolutely spectacular. I could talk for 7 more hours with you. Very fun time and loving all the 83 weeks. If you have not checked it out, go listen to Conrad and Eric in 83 weeks. And now just a ton of other stuff over at adfreeshows.com. I mean, you are producing tons of content over there by yourself.
You know why? Because I have a fucking blast. I have so much fun. And I know when I say that to the people, and now you work, you're on the team, right? You're part of the Ad Free Shows team. So I know I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. There's no reason for it. But, I tell people when I'm on with them, it's like, this is the most fun thing I'm going to do all week. I mean, I laugh. I entertain myself. Which is hard to do. I'm a tough customer sometimes, but I have so much fun doing it. And